following program is a peer-to-peer advice show and does not diagnose mental health conditions. If you're seeking social services, please call or text 211 or go to 211.ca. Hello, listeners around the world on radio, streaming, and podcast services. This is It's Not Therapy. I'm Liana Kersner, and I am not a therapist, but I am your source for navigating the madness of mental health using my top 10 sayings for checking in with your best self. This week, we're talking about the phenomenon of being creepy. Creepy is one of the most loaded legal accusations of the modern age, and a lot of the time, well, it's highly subjective or just not true. A young man can be accused of being creepy by a woman his age just for speaking to her while being insufficiently cool and attractive. And let's face it, as cruel as that reality is, it's commonplace. Those girls, to me, are creeps, defined as a person you think is unpleasant and to be avoided. When we talk about being creeped out, though, the experience of being creeped out, apparently coined by Charles Dickens back in the day. I don't know. I read that doing research for this show. Being creeped out, that chill up your spine, that's a very real experience. I know I've felt it. More on that in a bit. The creeps are a sensation of nervousness or fear, and that's something a lot of young and older women experience when approached. Romantically is the polite way of saying it, but somebody expresses sexual interest in a woman. She's not interested in them, and well, women are taught to be afraid of that kind of attention. But because this whole thing is so subjective, creeper gets applied to anyone who acts remotely inappropriately these days, which is extremely hard on autistic people and people who are just awkward but harmless. Because of that, I've got one of my It's Not Therapy facilitators joining us this week. Jake will be joining us again all the way from Northern Ireland, where he handles workplace conduct complaints at his day job about this, and he has a lot of peer-to-peer social interactions as well. This way, Jake has talked about being autistic before on this show, and I wanted to get his dual perspective here because of that fact. The creepy accusation affects autistic people in a unique way, and this matters. Now, maybe I'm a little biased here, but I was a creepy kid. You know, Wednesday, the Netflix show Wednesday? Yeah, that shades of me as a child. Yeah, I loved creepy things. When I was in the first grade, we made dinosaurs out of chicken bones, like dinosaur skeletons out of chicken bones. And that was the freaking coolest thing. Apparently, that was kind of weird to be quite into that, but dinosaurs, man, dinosaurs. But when I was in about grade 4 or 5, my mother put me in a pottery class, and I made a tree that was also a brain, and then I made a bunch of creatures with stalk eyes, like the kind snails have, and they had stalk eyes and really mangled teeth, and I thought these were the coolest things. My mother was completely weirded out. And if you've watched Has Been Hotel, the cartoon on Netflix, not Netflix, Amazon Prime, my favorite character there is Alistair, who speaks in this creepy old radio filtered voice. Maybe because I do radio, I like it, but he's so cool. But yeah, he's deliberately creepy. Some of his dialogue reminds me of things I've said. I also love opossums. You know those things that look kind of like a rat, kind of like a ferret? A lot of people think they're creepy looking, but I think they're creepy cute. This goes back away. Every alien in a movie or a TV show that kids could watch back in the 80s, my jam. E.T. loved it. Alf didn't like that he ate cats, but otherwise awesome. Remember Garbage Pail Kids? Madballs? Those things were the best. As far as I'm concerned, I realize like objectively that probably a kid liking that freaked people out, but they were amazing, man. Now, I didn't associate being creepy with danger back then because being creepy was what I used to stop other kids from picking on me. I deliberately acted weird at school because if I was strange enough to scare the kids that otherwise would have picked on me, they'd leave me alone instead of giving me a hard time. Yay, Team Creepy! It was a survival skill. So I'm coming at this show from a position of somebody who's been labeled creepy. That's one of the less harsh things people have said about me. And I've learned that the people most likely to get labeled creepy by society are, well, oftentimes harmless or really good, really good people sometimes. And the cool guys, well, the cool guys can often be the biggest closet creepers out there. They're just shielded by their social status, so people ignore a lot of the alarm bells, or worse, they hear the alarm bells, but they think they can't say anything. The thing that makes modern life so difficult is that our brains weren't built for the threats that we face now. Modern life isn't a simple, scary monster going to eat me, right? Now it's, this person seems really nice, but they might be a scam artist running a long con, This really nice person might go what we call mask off and become horrible. Here's a problem with that. As humans, we thrive when we're in environments where we can trust other humans. When we're raised to believe that any betrayal or abuse we suffer was our fault, or because something's inherently wrong with us, that has terrible effects on our mental health. And, well, we totally live in a world where we're discouraged from trusting. That's not how humans were meant to live. If you follow politics at all, how do you avoid it these days? Behaving dishonorably, actively dishonorably, throwing other people under the bus, betraying people, having no loyalty. That's increasingly seen as clever by both political poles instead of dishonorable. Then we have the pickup artist phenomenon, the lifestyle daters, the social media influencers, and it's really hard to figure out which authentic behaviors in other people are authentically authentic. And so we get creepy as a catch-all. If a woman says a guy is creepy, she's not questioned as much as if she's, upfront, authentic, honest about thinking the guy lacked confidence or in some other way wasn't good enough for her. I mean, lacking confidence alone can make someone seem creepy because predictable behavior is one of the things that puts people at ease. When you're not quite sure where someone is coming from because they're nervous, well, that can read as creepy because you're insecure, and so the other person becomes insecure, and then the anxiety just builds, and there's this anxiety feedback, and the person meant absolutely no harm, but the other person was totally creeped out, and both of those things are valid. Remember, women in society are actively rewarded for seeming frightened, but women are punished for having standards and boundaries that aren't nice. And just because you met the one woman or girl who, was aggressively cruel does not mean that across the board, this isn't the norm. And I'll fully admit, the fact that women are rewarded for not saying what they mean, for not being in touch with what they really mean, just defaulting from, he's creepy and I was scared, it doesn't help men understand what the heck is going on with women. It doesn't help men improve how to be less creepy, how to be more desirable, right? Now, there actually isn't a lot of science about this. The well was pretty dry here. There was a study done around 2016 that measured physical indicators of creepiness, things like standing too close to someone. Is that physical? That's more of a behavior. My bad. But smiling strangely. All all right, yeah. Displaying too much or too little emotion, well, that's really subjective. Having bulging eyes, okay. Having long fingers. Having pasty skin. Hey, as a ginger, I resemble that remark. Having greasy hair, okay. Having dark eye bags. Wearing dirty or weird clothes. I mean, dirty clothes might mean you're poor. You've been kicked out of the house, but what's weird clothes? This is very unscientific science. There are some behaviors as well, like I said, standing too close to someone. That one actually makes sense. Talking too much about a topic, especially sex. Okay, fair. Laughing in inappropriate times. Sure, I mean, there are certain medical conditions that can cause that, but yeah, I can understand why somebody would be uncertain there. Not letting someone out of a conversation. Certainly annoying. I guess somebody could get a little creeped out. Wow, this is on. Not only is talking about sex too much creepy, but displaying unwanted sexual interest in someone. Okay, we talked about that. No problem. Asking to take pictures of people and licking lips rounded out the list. Asking to take pictures of people. Obviously, some of these behaviors seem creepy in some contexts, but not in others. For instance, asking to take pictures of people at a comic book convention is not creepy. And that's the thing. There are a lot of things about creepy that are highly subjective. Here's an example involving a personal moral dilemma that I'm currently stuck on, okay? I caught a friend catfishing women. That is not subjective, but he insists it is. He insists it isn't catfishing. He totally created a fake online persona to infiltrate a woman's bad date Facebook group, and creating a fake online persona to deceive is the definition of catfishing according to Wikipedia, which is an unscientific but commonly accepted source. It's a go-to point. You know, so he created an online fake persona using a real woman's photo to infiltrate a woman's bad date Facebook group to see if they were talking about him. And when he was I told him it was a bad idea when he did it, but I thought he was just keeping an eye on things. But no. He stuck around and ingratiated himself to the women there to the point that these women were expressing interest in hanging out with the woman he was pretending to be. Then he signed up for a speed dating event that he was going to attend as himself. A speed dating event he found out about through this women's only group. That creeped me out. The guy is currently furious at me because he insists I'm totally wrong. This isn't at all catfishing because he had no personal romantic interest in these women. But he signed up for, I repeat, speed dating. Creepy. At least I find it creepy. Okay, I'm going to leave you to shake that one off. When we come back, I'll be talking to one of my facilitators, Jake, about how he handles complaints that someone is being creepy in both personal and professional spaces. He has experience with this. And he's autistic, so there's no bias there regarding autistic people and creepy. So he's a great person to talk to. I'm looking forward to the extra perspective because of my own personal recent experiences. When we come back, questions, comments, concerns, Liana at nottherapyshow.com. At nottherapyshow.com is the website. Join our mailing list at nottherapyshow on X. Got it right that time. Twitter, Instagram, and Threads. We'll be right back with Jake. Are you being creepy on It's Not Therapy? The following program is a peer-to-peer advice show and does not diagnose mental health conditions. If you're seeking social services, please call or text 211 or go to 211.ca. We're back on It's Not Therapy. I'm still Liana Kersner. I'm still not a therapist. We're still talking about being creepy. Are you not? What is it? And we actually have, I'd say, an expert on creepy, but that's gonna give the wrong idea. You guys all remember Jake from the Bubbleheads. Jake is one of my facilitators with the It's Not Therapy stuff, Discord moderator, all that good stuff. But Jake is also another peer-to-peer counselor. He actually does stuff on workplace conduct, LGBTQ issues, mental health issues at his work, which we will not mention because he's not here in this capacity. But Jake, welcome to It's Not Therapy. You have done stuff with your colleagues about being creepy. Is that correct?
Hi, Liana. Thank you very much for having me on. And yes, unfortunately, it just happens, especially when you have new intake of people. Eventually, something happens and you need to break it down for them as to that's okay, that's not.
Yeah, and that's the difficult thing about this, right? Is that you look up there's actual research on creepy. It's not very old, but it's it's not very useful. Like so much of academia, it's very detailed and not at all useful because it's a bunch of physical characteristics and it doesn't have a lot of behaviors associated it. So how do you, because obviously you're coming into this when things are already awkward, right? You can't get out in front of it. It's when there's an issue, everything's really tense. One side feels freaked out, the other side feels falsely accused. How do you start this conversation?
So usually the very first thing I do is I try and clarify as to the terminology being used. Creepy is, and I'm throwing the caveat here again of it is abused by some people as an ego boost. We all know that happens. Some people get called an ex-boyfriend or even an ex-girlfriend. Doesn't matter that they're creepy solely because they want to boost themselves up. It happens. I always define it as a sense of ambiguity of whether or not someone is a threat.
Mm-hmm.
So, of course, someone threatens to punch you in the face. That's a threat. You know what that is. But
Right.
if someone's staring at you across the room and they won't stop staring at you, that's you don't understand what their thought process there, and that is a possible risk to you. So, creepy equals ambiguity, really, in this.
Right. So it's the I can't prove something is wrong, but I don't want it to get to the point where it is incontrovertible. I want to prevent the bad thing from happening. That's what you're saying. The definition you use is that when it hits that point of somebody goes into self-defense mode.
Yeah, I kind of consider it similar in the sense of the pre-HR situation of, okay, do I address this with a person? Do I address this with the person's friends to try and figure out what's going on here? And a lot of the time, I find some people, for instance, I had a situation where someone legitimately was right under the clock, and it was the only clock in the office space,
Mm-hmm.
but the person under it was a new hired young woman, first job, and she kept getting stared at by this one particular guy, and it's like, no, he was just checking the clock on the
Right.
wall. But
Right.
it was a situation of she did not feel comfortable of addressing him. He was an older man, which
Mm-hmm.
is totally understandable. But she used that term, and I had to clarify as to the ambiguity. Yes, you're right. In that situation, felt creepy. It was
Right.
not a creepy situation.
Right. And there's a shining example of something that's no one's fault, but you totally see both sides there. Right.
Oh yeah.
I mean, women are so hardwired to identify and avoid threats. And this isn't something that, well, it is something that men in the LGBTQ plus community deal with, but straight guys often aren't trained. It's training, isn't it? To
Uh,
be on the alert for threats.
from my experience of working in this field and trying to sort of play peer to peer on this, so never leaning on them in any shape or
Right.
form, what I've found, especially for cis straight men, the problem they have is ostracization
Hmm.
more than anything else. So women do and always will have a underlying sense of threat because of, and I'm going to be 100% honest with it, is that they are an access to someone to have sexual intercourse,
Right.
which a lot of people put a lot of weight to. For straight men, the problem comes down to if you're labeled a certain sort of
Yes.
type of man, not only can that be detrimental to your own form of employment, not
Yep.
necessarily fired, but other job opportunities. but you're also kind of kept away from very things that you would find very important. Close relationships,
That's
being
right.
able to actually be able to express yourself properly. Because I can promise you, anyone who's been able to a quote unquote wuss, I'm using a nicer version of what the usual word
Right,
is,
right, right.
can that comes up in meetings
Mm-hmm.
with between peers. They will, oh, shut up, you quote,
Yeah,
and it's very emotionally damaging to you.
yeah.
And of course, I'm not sat here to just kiss the ass of the cis straight white man, but I need people to understand there is also difference there, but at the same
Mm-hmm.
time, there is still a negative thing that can happen for people who are labeled different things. Like going back to the creepy situation, women are also classified as creepy,
Yep.
not nearly as much, and not nearly to the extent of they are a threat. It's more
Right.
in the sense of they are, and it took a while to try and figure this out. And the terminology that I came to was that they are not compatible with the
Right.
rest of the group.
Right.
And that sometimes feels worse in the moment. To be called
Right.
creepy, you can throw your own insult out. We all know that the B word gets thrown around at women all the time,
Right.
warranted or not, how you feel in that minute. But for a woman to be classified as creepy because she takes a great interest in random things, I know
Right.
someone personally who collects medieval weaponry. They have
Right.
a flail, a proper working flail, by the
Yep.
way. I
Yep.
was terrified when I first saw them wield that
It's
thing, but they're
a
good with
scary
it.
weapon. Yeah.
But she's was kicked out of friend groups and social circles within her workplace because they considered that creepy that you'd be wanting weaponry in your own home. She collected them, was stapled to the wall. They weren't able to get them off. It wasn't a threat, it's just decoration. But even so, that was, they didn't say weird, they didn't say other sort of forms. It went
Mm-hmm.
straight to creepy, which was very peculiar.
Yeah,
I never understood that.
and that's a problem, especially in workplaces, because obviously, autistic people have special interests that most people don't share, certainly aren't as passionate about as some. And how do you handle this? You've set up rightly a situation where people are automatically put at odds with each other, that
Mhm.
one legitimate concern trips off another legitimate concern, and nobody's going to be 100% happy here. So how do you
Yeah.
balance accommodation? And I mean, in the one situation, you move the clock, problem solved. Right. But
Yeah, in
yeah,
that situation, we just put more clocks on the walls, and
right,
that actually solved the problem as it
right,
was. But yeah,
right. But in something where somebody just has an interest in historical medieval weaponry, which harms no one, um,
Mhm.
what do you do about something like that?
So the first thing that I kind of had to ask when this was brought to my attention
Mhm.
was I had to approach the person that was said the creepy term,
Yeah,
just
yeah,
that, like they are the ones who introduced this to the space. So I had to
right,
ask them, were they speaking to you about this? Did they introduce
right,
this to you in any shape or form? Turned
right,
out it wasn't. And I, in the nicest professional manner, said, mind your business or
right.
you'll catch hands. And it's not necessarily of any sort of physical threat involved there, but
No,
it is one of those gossip in a workplace. It goes side by side. There is not a possible way in any workplace that there is not a gossip wheel.
right.
If you've never heard it in your workplace, by the way,
You might be it.
that's a
Yeah,
problem.
yeah,
Yeah,
yeah, yeah,
you might want to
yeah,
figure that out.
yeah, yeah.
But the thing was is that I had to say to them in the sense of there is first of all the term that you used in regards to creepy is actually incredibly damaging. You have to realize that
Right,
if I called you creepy because of the type of shoes that you wear, because
right,
they're always open toed, that's a problem. It's not a problem, but it would be a problem for you to be calling me creepy for that. And once I explained this to her, she was 30 years old. That's the problem with this too. You would have thought it caught on, but it didn't. And what ended up happening in the end was I approached the person who was called the name, asked them
hmm,
what their resolution that they felt would be appropriate, and it was
right,
just simply, don't talk to me. I
right,
just made that clear. This is now going to become a HR thing of you're never to approach this person. If something happens, go to their management.
right.
You have created this problem. And I think going back to, and I'm actually going to bring this a bit away from the employment and too personal as
Uh-huh.
well. The problem with the terminology of creepy in modern day is people don't say creepy to their friends. They don't usually say
Right.
you're creepy. They say it in public. He's being creepy to me, to my group of 18 people in a bar. So of course everyone's
Right.
looking at the wounded animal in the corner when you're all back a pack of hyenas. I am not at all suggesting that people do not look after themselves.
Right.
If you feel at all not at ease, take the steps to correct that. Never apologize for having to do that, but always make sure that what you're doing is for your protection, not to attack someone else. And I think
Right.
people mix that up. People have always taken the best defense is a good offense
Yeah.
situation, and I think a lot of people consider it as a form of weakness not to. If you are on the defensive line, you are weak because you didn't get
Right.
rid of this
Right.
first.
Right. Right.
And speaking as someone who is, I'm gay, loving partner, 8 years. I haven't went to a gay bar in 5 because of that, because they're horrible now. No, sorry, that's bad. I can't stand the music. I don't know anyone anymore. I, I bring me to a 90s night and I will be dancing like the
No,
biggest loon you'll ever find.
not
But
not a
2023 music, no.
not a fan of micro sets. 90 seconds and on to the next song.
Absolutely not. Ick. If someone managed, if they're doing that thing where they build up the beat to music and then cut it halfway in
Right.
the hype
Yeah.
bit,
Yeah.
no, no, I riot. I'm going to go over to the barman and ask for 3 drinks. Hand it to the DJ and be just like, put a full song on. I've treated you. You have to now.
Right.
Uh,
Yeah. Yeah.
but bring it to the serious matter of, for people who are in social interactions and you're meeting someone for the first time,
Hmm.
and I'm coming at this as a gay man who's also autistic, the amount of men that I see who trip on the back foot, like literally stepping in the door and they trip,
Right.
not for anything more of they have been designated the creep because of 3 things. And I'm at, this is genuine. I've seen this 100 times. The first thing is that whenever they approach someone, they get too close. Now, I understand a lot of places,
Yes.
the music is deafening. If you would like to speak to someone, ask them to go outside, ask them to the smoking area, somewhere public, somewhere where everyone can see, but you can be just like, lead them that way. That's not creepy in any shape or form. That's just a indication that you want to speak.
Right.
If you are leaning into that person's ear who you've never spoken to before and screaming so you can be
Yeah.
heard,
Yeah.
that sets people off. The second thing is when you're dancing or moving around a person, treat the back of, where the spine meets your butt,
Yep.
that sort of
Yep.
area. That is the window to the woman. And I don't understand why. People think they're allowed to touch there to move a woman, to, get their attention, to lean close.
Yeah.
I've honestly, witnessed, well, no, in the sense of I had friends who I genuinely had to slap the hands away
Hmm.
from other
Hmm.
people. I
Hmm.
was her ass protector at that time. But stop it. That's not a place for you to touch. You shouldn't touch anyone anywhere, but for some reason that little square on a woman's back has been deemed as appropriate,
Yep.
and it needs to stop. And the final thing, and I truly stand by this for everyone out there, this is a men and women situation. When you buy someone a drink, buy someone a meal, you buy something for someone, they are not obligated to do anything for you. That was a
Right.
gift. Gifts are
Right.
not returnable.
Right.
The amount of women I've seen who bought their partner a game and then expected them to spend 20 times that amount on them because they bought them something. No.
Hmm.
Same as well of when a guy buys a girl a drink, that means nothing. Thank you,
Right.
cheers.
Right.
I've had old men buy me drinks before and genuinely was just, I've actually returned the drinks to them because I know what they're after. You can make that basic
That's
assumption, but I don't think it's creepy. But it doesn't feel right. You didn't speak
that's
to me before.
that's something I've noticed that has changed since I was, a late teenager, young adult. All the norms have we talked about it a lot then as something we were trying to phase out of, but you can no longer accept kindness anymore without there being this, nonverbal cue idea of, well, if you do something, then that means you completely lose control of the situation. And now there's this expectation and you can't say no. And I have no idea where that came from, but I know it is very real because in the mid 90s, um, we were taught say no. And if he hits you, you go to the cops. Then it's unequivocal. That no joke. That's what we were taught, that it's better that he assault you than you get coerced into getting AIDS. that it was hardcore, but that's what we were taught. Obviously, thank God we don't live in that paradigm anymore. But it does seem like a lot of people are getting hurt because we way overshot the happy medium there of
Mhm.
he's probably not going to hurt you, so just tell him to no, I have to tell everybody else because direct confrontations are somehow unsafe. This might be a good time to take a break, let you digest on that answer because it's a bit of a big picture one. We're going to talk about that after the break on It's Not Therapy. Still talking, are you creepy? Questions, comments, concerns, Liana at nottherapyshow.com or nottherapyshow.com. Fill out the contact form when you're there. Join our mailing list, Not Therapy Show at Not Therapy Show on X, that's Twitter, Instagram, and Threads. Be right back about being creepy. The following program is a peer-to-peer advice show and does not diagnose mental health conditions. If you're seeking social services, please call or text 211 or go to 211.ca. We're back on It's Not Therapy. I'm still Liana Kersner. I'm still not a therapist. Still talking how to tell if you're being creepy. And I'm still talking to Jake, one of my It's Not Therapy facilitators who deals with complaints of this sort at his day job, which we will not be mentioning for confidentiality reasons. Confidentiality. Therefore, I can still talk. Now, before the break, I was talking about this huge paradigm shift between Gen X, me, early millennials moving into late millennials and Gen Z regarding expectations, most notably regarding direct confrontations, regarding inappropriate behavior or creepiness. So, Jake, we'll start there. You're younger than me, so you had a different time period experience, all that stuff. What happened? Why is it so different now?
In my experience, and I'm speaking more of opinion than experience rather than opinion,
Yeah,
because I've
there's
just
really no data on this. This is the problem.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And one of the things that I witnessed, and this is coming from high school to being an adult, working an
Mm-hmm.
adult job, going past the minimum wage Burger King to an actual
Right.
physical, office job. And one of the things that I have fully witnessed is, and this sounds so bad, but it's the absolute truth, the 5-year plan that people had. You were told to do this as
Mm-hmm.
or middle to late teen.
Mm-hmm.
What's your 5-year plan? You're going to
Right.
university, you're going to this, you're going to that.
Yeah.
We had 2 recessions, a pandemic. For me, I live in the
That's right.
UK, so I've had 6, 7 prime ministers in the past 8 years, something
Yeah.
to that effect, almost prime
Yeah.
minister a year. It's wild. We have had major political and social structure changes with it in a very short space of time.
Mm-hmm.
And one of the things people forgot about was the daily person, the
Yeah.
existing average person. And what happened to me is they turned to who is going to be willing to at least listen? Who's
Right.
listening to me? Who do I
Right.
feel is listening to me? Now, in my experience, women have each other. There is a great friend group. A lot of the time, within that friend group, there's 1 or 2 that will listen to you, and you can talk nonsense throughout the world, solve all the world's problems. You have that sort of support, and more commonly
Right.
than what
Right.
I find
Well,
in men
yes,
friend groups.
the data backs that up. Women have
Mhm.
more friends and the friendships are more emotionally intimate starting in, I think, well, starts to slip in middle school, but definitely by late teens. We start seeing
Mhm.
that diverge. Yeah.
What I found for men is that, first of all, alcohol is always used, even if you're a
Right.
non-drinker and you have religious issues or medical
Mhm.
issues that you
Right.
don't drink. Alcohol is used as the social lubricant to
Yeah.
have
You go to the pub.
conversations. Yeah, you go to the
Yeah.
pub. They
Right.
are talking about their problems,
Right.
but that only is allowed up until the final drink, at which
That's right.
point, bye, going home,
Yeah.
and we ignore that just happened.
Right.
Now, the other thing as well, and this is actually bringing it back to the creepy situation,
Mm-hmm.
we have lost the capacity to modulate our emotional output. That's me trying to be very technical, but it is the truth.
Yeah.
So I witnessed, and this is the thing, I went looking, knowing that this subject was coming up. I went through my old research notes that I did for social conduct and stuff in the workplace. And
Mm-hmm.
one of the things I found is it's always said that either a man too emotional or not emotional at
Right,
all
right.
is considered creepy. That's
Yeah,
always the thing. If they are willing to cry at
yeah.
a drop of a hat, that's creepy. If they're not willing to do anything whatsoever, emotionally, then that's also creepy. And
Mm-hmm.
one of the things I found is people forget that the female friend who falls to pieces every
Mm-hmm.
week is
Yeah.
also a great. No one wants to hang around that person, but you don't want to be the reason they fall to pieces this time. There is a different dynamic,
Mm-hmm.
but the thing is, people have labeled that creepy. They are called a hot mess.
Yeah, no, it's true. Well, I think that the converse of that is the things that get women labeled the B word are that's gay with men.
Mhm.
You know, that's gay between men is and certain female members of my family that have not adopted the vocabulary is the male that's creepy.
Yeah, I will definitely say I have never seen so much homoerotic behavior than in male sports.
Yeah.
The amount of stuff that they're willing to do to each other, I'm just like,
Yeah.
I have seen
Yeah.
worse things in my own
Yeah.
bedroom. Like the worst things there than my own bedroom. But one of the things is that label of gay,
Hmm.
and worse actually is the full thing. You're behaving like a homosexual. If you've
Yeah.
ever heard a man told that, you can watch their face drop. Even gay men don't want to be told that. They don't want to be told you're acting gay. As much
Right.
as you kind
Right.
of stand
That's
up
right.
and go,
That's right.
who the hell are you talking to?
Yeah.
Or you kind of break it out to a million and just, limp wrist it and everything.
Right.
It's still considered insulting.
Yes.
And in the whole thing of it, I would say it's actually the slur of the P word
Yeah.
for gay. It's one of those,
Right.
I don't want to bring this onto the radio, but
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
that word would be the creepy. I wouldn't say gay, I would say that P
Okay.
word. Gay is an insult that can be utilized as a form of endearment or you're
Yes.
messing about and
Yeah.
between friends it's fine.
That's right.
You break out that P word, no, you're actively just trying to hurt someone.
And this is the problem with this stuff. It is very context sensitive. I mean, it's funny because we planned this topic before this came out, but there's a situation I've had that I caught a friend of mine doing what I would consider catfishing on Facebook. I
Mhm.
talked about this off the top. He was in a group that was supposed to be for all women, sharing amongst themselves the bad dates they'd had with men. The point where I went, no, you are deleting this account right now, as he signed up for a speed dating service that he discovered through this all women's group. So he was prepared to follow these women to a place in real life unbeknownst to them. And I told him,
Mhm.
you are totally creeping me out right now. This is really wrong. And he exploded on me and blamed me for the whole thing.
Uh, uh, so I have a few
Yeah.
comments about that actually. First of all, if he thought that he was on the list of bad boyfriends,
Yeah.
that
What
says
does that
enough.
say? Yep. Exactly.
If so, this is a message to all my, and I am speaking directly to cis straight men from the
Yeah.
gay man, win man.
Yeah.
I have done it for my male friends. Two people that I put together are now married, so
Yeah.
I have that going for me. If you ever feel that someone could be saying something about you, be ready to 100% with your full chest be willing to ignore it. If you're
Right.
not, it actually is possibly true.
Now,
If you're not,
why ignore it? Because a lot of guys are going to have issues with this advice precisely because
hmm,
this stuff does spread. I've seen it. I've seen it happen to me. People make stuff up about me that's absolute nonsense. It spreads like wildfire, even though it makes no sense. Now, I do what you do, that I ignore it or address it as this is absurd and move on. But a lot of people, because of that fear of ostracization, you mentioned before, live in abject
hmm.
terror of exactly this scenario and they can't leave it alone.
See there for, and I apologize. This is just one of those things of I have the 5 step process of resolution. First, ignore.
Hmm.
Always
Hmm.
ignore a problem if you can. Not for anything more of if you're capable of ignoring it, it wasn't that big of a deal to you to begin with. Not that you force yourself to. It's just it's not. I don't care.
Right.
Moving on.
That's
Done.
right.
Then the next step, what you need to do is not get ahead of it. Because the thing is that if you act, become accessible to this issue, to the rumor or something like that, they
Right.
build on that. Whatever, if you become the foundation of this because they pointed every reaction, every movement, every spoken word, or every written word. So
Right.
instead, my thing is treat it like what you consider to be a lie, and just who has the time for
Uh,
this? Like the third one I actually say is lean into it in a comedic fashion. Now, I understand people all have different forms of comedy. I had a guy who genuinely had a girlfriend say that he was the worst that she's ever had in bed and all
Right.
this sort of thing. And he's a horrible person. He just takes and he takes and he takes and all this sort of thing. And I said to the guy, "Why are you trying to take me out to dinner next?"
Right.
And that joke of just, I'm not stating to him that what the situation that he's in is not uncomfortable, but if
Right.
you can make a joke out of it, that makes you move into a better position because you're not left with it
It's
eating at your brain.
yeah, it's not
The fourth
controlling your
step,
life.
yeah, the fourth step on it is to speak to the ones you feel that you need to speak to, and only that. If never address the person's spreading a rumor, because they're spreading a
Right.
rumor for a reason. It could even be for your attention. What I would always say is go to the people that you value, the people in your workspace, your
Hmm.
boss, your directing manager, your work colleagues, your partners, whatever,
Hmm.
and speak to them and inform them. Listen, I'm hearing people talking about this, and I don't believe I did anything. I don't
Hmm.
really want to discuss it. No one's came to me about anything, but
Yeah.
please, before you start thinking I did stuff, come to me. That's all
So
you need to
that
do.
that's okay.
And then the fifth and final rating on that is full confrontation. And by that I mean you never address it with the actual person, but you address with a person you would consider a higher up. Now
Right.
that's professional. In a
Right.
social situation, I genuinely say, for instance, it's a boy, man, talk to a girl. She's now throwing about accusations, and this is starting to spread, or
Yeah.
whatever the case may be. Generally speaking, you know who they're talking to because that's how you got input
Yeah.
from it anyway.
Yeah.
And you can just say to them, like, I'm going to fully address this now because this has just got out of hand. I'm saying this to you. Can you tell everyone else? I don't want to deal with this person. Done. Never
Hmm.
address the rumor person. Never address the person who threw out the creepy thing. It does never help your case.
No, no,
Ever.
it doesn't, because I mean this is one of these nasty bits of benevolent sexism that makes things hard for everyone. Women do lie sometimes. Other times women are stunted. I mean, men and women are stunted, but women get
Mm-hmm.
stunted in a unique way, and so they think that this is okay behavior. And one of the things I want to I don't know if you noticed when I told the way I said, I didn't say you are creepy. I said
You're
I am
acting creepy.
creeped out. I am creeped out by this,
Mm-hmm.
which is uh, an action, not a definition of the entire person. Now, he still didn't take it well, and that told me all I needed to know about it.
Yeah,
But um these are complicated situations, so I appreciate you coming and talking about this. It's good advice, the steps you've suggested, because I do find that um getting into a slap fight, a verbal slap fight with somebody, often just they're not going to listen. They are
I,
not, if they're doing this to you in the first place, they're not interested in having a conversation. Would you agree?
I would. And the only other thing I would say to someone is before you pick a fight, know that whatever you say can be recorded without your
Yeah.
knowledge, and anything you write can be put online. If you like your life as it is, don't mess it up with a momentary lapse of judgment. That's it. You can get called creepy. Fine. Being a creep is not a crime, and
Yeah.
you can fix it. But you going off on someone and calling them this, that, and the other can get people and has got people fired. So rethink your approach.
That's really good advice. Jake, thanks so much. When we come back, I'm going to deal with that being creepy is not a crime. I think we need more time on that. So stay tuned on It's Not Therapy. If you have questions, comments, concerns, anything for me or Jake, Liana at nottherapyshow.com. Nottherapyshow.com is the website if you can't spell my first name right. Join the mailing list while you're there. Fill out the contact form or at Not Therapy Show on X, Twitter, Instagram, and Threads. When we come back, final thoughts on creepy. Well, as much we could do in the hour. We could talk for hours about creepy, but I'm going to stop now for commercial. The following program is a peer-to-peer advice show and does not diagnose mental health conditions. If you're seeking social services, please call or text 211 or go to 211.ca. We're back on It's Not Therapy. I'm still Liana Kersner. I'm still not a therapist. We still have 3 minutes left in this episode on creepy. And like I said, we could do hours on creepy. We're actually going to start up something about this on our Discord because it is a concern. And since time is short, I want to pick up on what Jake said. He said a lot of great stuff, but I want to pick up on the creepy isn't criminal comment he made. And I don't want that to make anyone feel invalidated because your feelings of unfairness are valid if you're accused of being creepy. It stings. It hurts, especially when you find out that somebody said it behind your back instead of telling you. Now, one of the things that might help understand that, why didn't they do that, is look what happened to me when I told a guy who I thought was a friend who turned out to not be a great friend, that he was creeping me out, and he blew up on me, turned the whole thing around. People have a couple of experiences like that, and they're not going to chance it many more times. That's understandable, right? But at some point, somebody has to take the risk, or nobody gets anywhere. And that's where we are, I find, as a society. Everybody is terrified of each other. And that's why I suggest people being more direct, even when it goes badly. But also, there was somebody, I wasn't called creepy behind my back, but she said some really nasty things about me behind my back. And I didn't bring it up with her. I'm just done. I just walked away, like Jake said. And walking away at first is hard. It feels like you're giving in. It feels like you're losing. But what it is taking control back and not wasting any more time on a group of people who clearly does not share your core values. Top 10 phrase, core values are more important in relationships and common interests. If the things you do make somebody else call you creepy, you have two choices. Either change your behavior, or you can decide that these aren't your people and move on, and both are valid. It's all about doing it from a good place that is about making you your best self, as opposed to trying to conform to a cruel group of people who will never accept you because they don't accept themselves. And that's a story for another time. Liana at nottherapyshow.com, nottherapyshow.com if you want to leave a comment. I am out of time, so remember, you're crazy, no matter how creepy people find it, is only a problem if it's hurting you. Talk soon.